Heyo, this is Stracco, and today we are going to be playing the Guardian. I was going to use a more standard build, but I got inspired, let's say, when I saw adds Quickstep to your weapon. So we are going to be doing the no block Dex Assassin Guardian. To make that a little bit stronger, when we do charge attacks, it's going to create a whirlwind. We're going to have Quickstep, and our art gauge will fill more on critical hit. And we will have partial HP restoration upon post-damage attacks. Everything else that my relics are adding is just kinda like small stat increases that probably don't matter. Also, I'm not planning to do the Everdark Dark Drift Knight, but I was thinking about it, and, I think I'll include it in the random roll. And if we happen to get it, well, we'll see how that run goes, but hey, we'll do our best. So with that said, we've got Shifting Earth Mountaintop still, and let's get this done. Alright, first things first, let's see what we actually got as our roll. The Dark Drift Knight. But I don't think the Everdark one. I mean, it's blue, I assume. I don't think that... I think that if it was the Everdark one, that would be purple. But I don't know, because normally I don't have to look on the map screen. So, here's the Whirlwind effect that is added to our heavy attacks. As you can see, it's kind of just a range extender. I think it does a little bit more damage as well. And we have Quickstep. Yeah. I don't actually know that using Quickstep is better than using just my normal dodge. But just the idea that I could put Quickstep on Guardian really was making me giggle, and I wanted to give it a try and see if I could make a fun build out of it. So we're going to be all-out aggression, dodging, no blocking, Guardian. Let's get it done. So I think the build kind of speaks for itself. Quick step around, try to fish for backstabs. That's the crazy amount of poise that I have. And as you can see, I can heal back some of the damage that I take if I hit quickly enough after I hit something. I love the Guardian skill, by the way. I don't know if it's the best, but for situations like that, there's just something so nice about it. So I wanted to talk a little bit about game design, and game development specifically, because that's what I said I would talk about at the end of last video, and it's kind of been on my mind. But specifically, like, how do you design? What do I need for this? A Dark Drift is lightning? Well, but specifically, how do you go about designing a game? I don't think that I can really do justice to the technical parts of making a game, especially not if I'm just trying to talk, like, end play, because that's kind of a more logical process, but game design I think I can talk about because this is a game, and I'll have constant things to reference. So, the way that I think about game design is pretty simple, right? If you want to make a game, start with a core idea. So, like, I want to make a racing game that goes all in on the idea of drifting. I want drifting to be the primary way that you do any race, and I want it to feel extremely satisfying to do. Alright, great. You've got your core idea. Now, how do you take that core idea and turn it into an actual game? Well, you need to look at your design, or you need to take your core idea and say, how could I make drifting itself the core focus of my game? Now, of course, you could have other mechanics to it, right? Like, you could have boost, you could have slipstreams, you could have any other racing terminology that you may wish. But you want to focus on the drift. Well, first, you need to make a car and give it a drift. Shoot, I'm starting to talk too much about the actual building of it. Sorry, that's just how my brain works, because that's usually what I do. Okay, first you need to make a drift that feels good. And that means the very finicky and subjective task of what feels good in a game. I have a full video on what I think makes for good feeling movement, but basically you're going to make that drift not just a mechanic, but but a mechanic that has depth to it. It can't just be they friendly fired. It can't just be, oh, you press this button and the car goes on its side and can turn better. Because that's not very interesting. Instead, you need to make it where, like, maybe the longer you hold the drift, the tighter it starts drifting, but the faster you come out of the drift. Like, realism is very rarely fun. The best games that I can think of, and probably the best games that you could think of, aren't usually the most realistic. Look at every game that has ever been popular. Look at, like, Call of Duty, right? I'm trading hits with this thing and getting absolutely fucked up. Look at Call of Duty. That is not an accurate representation of using weaponry. Look at Mario Kart. That's like a crazy successful racing game. You do front flips in your car. Look at For Honor, which I believe is the most popular, like, medieval fighting game. Is it even medieval anymore? I don't know. But, look at For Honor. They don't make the fighting realistic. I need to not hold syllables because I'm thinking. The Warden literally does a spin slash as it used to be one of his best moves. His zone attack. He does a full 360 spin and hits you with the sword. No one in history was fighting like that. But it's fun. Well, I don't like For Honor, but it's fun for a lot of people. That's kind of what I mean. Your goal isn't realism, your goal is fun. Always. So take that drift and make it just that little bit cartoony. Make it just completely out of line with reality, but make it fun. It doesn't matter. And if you want to keep it more grounded, okay, fine, but look at Need for Speed. Drifting in that game is not realistic, because drifting realistically just isn't really that cool. Well, I mean, it's actually super cool in real life, but when you're doing it in a game, it's hard to make it cool. I personally, if I was going to make this game, think I would kind of go in on making drifting less of a you press a single button and more involved with counter steering. Can I not? Oof, no, this isn't in the circle. Well, that's what I get for talking instead of focusing. So, for those who just know nothing about this, and I really know nothing about this too, so correct me if I'm wrong, but when you drift a car, you need to have special tires to do it. If you are missing step one, you're not going to be drifting anywhere. But also, you need to counter steer more than anything else. So you throw your car pretty hard into the turn, and then you turn the wheels the other way. I would have been a little pissed if that sniped me. And you kind of seesaw it back and forth in order to keep the drift controlled. Right? That right there sounds like an incredible game mechanic, because I've seen game mechanics like that. It's essentially a balancing act. Like, you can make a fun balancing act-based drift. Dude, that'd be sick. Just fighting Dark Drift Knight without a shield is gonna be rough. Alright, but once you finally nail down, okay, I've got this drift and it feels good. Usually good meaning that it's got mastery to it, and depth. Well, the difference, you could make the best feeling drift system in the world. And if all of your tracks are straight lines, not a single person will even notice, because there won't be an opportunity for it. So now you're saying, oh, I want my game to be about drifting. You have to design the game around drifting. So first things first, you make your character, whether it's a RPG-like character or it's a car. You just make a character, And then next, you have to actually build your game around what you want players to do. So in your case, you want drifting. That means you need to make tracks that have a lot of pretty crazy curves. So that that's the next thing you do. You make a basic track that's a lot curvier than probably a standard racing game would have. And maybe you even make it where like there's jumps. Like you're at this point you're already going in on the cartoony aspect of it. So maybe you make it so there's jumps that you only get enough speed to hit if you hit really good drifts. And there now you're starting to build a real multi-layered fun system. Because not you're not only giving them a fun mechanic at its baseline, you're also giving them tracks and levels that encourage them to really go out of their way to make use of it. I've always been so bad with Quickstep. And yeah, from there, I'd say if you are a solo developer, those two steps will get you most of the way to making a pretty good game, at least in terms of design. Best of luck finding a good art team or assets, getting all the programming feeling right, because let's be real, saying make the drift feel good is easy. Actually doing that is going to be hours of tweaking. Tweaking your numbers, of course, not just tweaking. I should have taken a lightning weapon, I'm trolling. But, it's a process, right? But that's how I always looked at game design. I look at what can the character that I'm playing as do. So in like Dark Souls, you can roll, block, attack, and parry. And then I look at how they actually want me to, how they encourage you to use those mechanics, you know? So like if there's an enemy that has really slow telegraphed attacks, but once it starts a chain, it doesn't stop, I kind of look at that and I go, oh, they want you to parry this. Now, the enemies that do that are, it's not rare, but pretty rare, because parrying is a sort of niche mechanic. A lot of the times they even make it so it just doesn't work on fights in order to make it more challenging. But when they do let it work, they let it work, and it's pretty cool. Next, I kind of jumped ahead of myself there. You look at what core mechanics you have, such as parrying, and then after you look at how, such as parrying, rolling, jumping, whatever, and then you look at, well, how are they building their encounters to make me use these tools? Because the encounters that they build, almost more than what you can do, tell you how they want you to play the game. Going back to my car example, because I think racing games are the most simple in terms of understanding what I'm talking about with design, right? Because, like, at the end of the day, you're driving a car. That's understandable for almost anybody. But yeah, going back to the racing game idea, when you play a racing game and they've got massive jumps and, like, crazy straights and all the drifting is done out of max acceleration, my mind goes, oh, they want me to go... He just tossed me through a wall. They want me to go fast and then make hairpin turns and feel cool because I'm racing other people. When the tracks are the insane, like, Trackmania custom track stuff, I go, oh, they want me to constantly be micro-adjusting my steering in order to make this work. And both of these are valid. Like, there's not a right or wrong way to build a game. It's just make sure that you make the core motion of it fun, or the core action of it fun, and then from there, make sure you design your game around whatever you want your character to do. And the more abstract the idea that you start with, right? The more difficult. Oh, I don't have any fire and I'm fighting hands. This is gonna suck. The more abstract of an idea that you want to bring to life, the more complicated your game is going to have to be. Look at like Devil May Cry 5, right? You can't make that game with a basic system. Like a basic combat system, that is, because the way that they looked at that game is they said, we want to make a crazy, like, combo-based spectacle fight. Spectacle action game. Well, spectacle implies that you're going to need to be able to do more than, like, one or two swings. It's just, unfortunately, you cannot say, oh, we want spectacle, and then you design it, and it's just, you've got a light attack and a heavy attack, go crazy. You need to put a lot more effort into, well, really the weapon art on this is kick? Anyway, you'll need to put a lot more effort into how the character can move and interact with every single enemy. Fight and interact, I should say, not move. That's just an unfortunate truth in that, you don't make a game like Devil May Cry off of one or two button attacks. Instead, you need the weapon switching. You need the multi-directional stuff. Quickstep iframes coming in clutch. This is the most goofy Wilder thing I've ever seen. Or not Wilder, Guardian thing I've ever seen. And if you try to skip out on making the multi-directional stuff, not multi-directional, the multifaceted combo stuff, it's not likely to be in line with the vision that you had. I don't feel like fighting this, so we're going to fly up and fly down. Sorry, I'm kind of having to lock in as it spawns more stuff. But all of this yapping just to really say, complexity in concept breeds complexity in design. When you say I want my character to look and act super cool, that is rough. If you say I just want to make a extremely good role-playing game, well, now your struggle isn't in technical. Critical hits are summon a dark light, I guess this. Now your limitation and difficulty in design isn't in the technical, it's in how do I write a really good story. Like, if you say, I want to make a very in-depth RPG. Okay, well, now the actual technical part of that, you can kind of shift your design struggles from mechanical struggles of, like, how do I make this feel good, to mental struggles of, which I'm sure we're all much more familiar with, but to mental struggles of how can I make this complicated and satisfying to do? Me personally, I think making good puzzles is not my strong suit, because I don't like puzzles in my video games most of the time. Like, I don't want to sit there and make a multi-layered, like, oh, did I properly... I never fight those, they fly, they're annoying. Iron Eye could do it. Did I properly foreshadow the solution to this puzzle? I don't know. That's just not what I'm interested in making. I much prefer making good-feeling movement systems, platformers, like puzzle game. No, I just said I don't like making puzzles. Platforming games, action games. I really want to take a crack at an action game. But, like I said, to make an action game, you need a lot of stuff. Do you know how much effort it is to make an entire moveset for dual-wielding halberds? How niche is this? You don't do stuff like this as a solo dev. You do stuff like this when you're putting $100 million into a game. But yeah, I don't know, I think that's a pretty good summary of my thoughts on designing games. You start at a core idea, Preferably something simple if you're just one dev, but hey, if you want to tackle something complicated, I am a firm believer that it is more important to do what you're interested in than to do what is easy. Or, like, if you want to learn how to program and you're trying to start at something that you have actual genuine interest in, I think you're putting yourself in a better situation. He always puts his head somewhere so annoying. I think you're putting yourself in a better situation than if you try to do it based off of what someone else says you should start with. Like, if you have zero interest in HTML, and which is HTML, for those who don't know, is the language that websites are built off of, but it is very, very basic. And when I say built off of, holy shit, he hit hard. But when I say built off of, I mean like HTML is what you use to make a line of text going down a page. It is not very interesting for most people. CSS, which is cascading style sheets, yeah, that's what it stands for, is what you use to actually make web pages look pretty. Without that, it is just text in a line, like straight down. Like imagine you opened a Word document and just started writing. That's what websites would look like, with little bullet points and stuff you could add too. But HTML is a great place to start if you want to learn web development. Maybe, actually, nowadays I kind of think you're better off starting with just letting an AI explain that or do that for you, but you know, the passing of time changes all. But, that's probably the best place to start because that's the foundation of what web design is built off of. But if you're not interested in it, you're not going to stick to learning it anyway. So don't do it. Do something you're interested in. If you want to figure out, oh, how could I make Snake on a browser? You know what? That's basic JavaScript. That's JavaScript, HTML, CSS. And it's going to be skipping a few steps. It's going to be quite a bit more difficult. But you might also actually have fun doing it. Did I not get a smithing stone one? Oof, I never see that happen. And having fun doing it means you'll actually stick to doing it. And trust me, that is so much more beneficial to learning than trying to do the right thing in the right order. Yeah, you might learn a little bit slower than someone who learns the correct quote unquote way and sticks to it, but you are going to be absolutely miserable learning the correct way if you're not interested. And interest tends to interest tends to result in better progress than correct learning, right? If you can spend 10 hours learning something and be interested in it, you're going to make so much more progress than someone who spends 5 but hates it. And perhaps most importantly, you'll actually want to come back to doing it. That's why to learn Spanish, studying it, instead of just studying it like normal, after a certain point, what I did, ow, that hurt. After a certain point, what I did was I started playing video games in Spanish. Because I just pressed L1 thinking I had a shield. Oh, my brain. Because by playing games in Spanish, I was doing something I was interested in. And eventually I started replaying games that I'd already beaten in English in Spanish, which added a whole nother layer to it because now I knew what the story was supposed to be telling me. Yikes, I'm taking so much damage. What am I equipped with right now? Alright, I might need to lock in a little bit. This is bad. Yeah. very it very quickly snowballed to where I went from not really understanding what I had learned to, oh, I get it. Because I was playing games in the language and I was that is barely a stagger. I was playing games in the language, and on top of playing games in the language, I was listening to music in the language. Just everything I could do to learn quicker and be interested in doing it. I think the best thing to do at this point is actually to die, by the way. Ah. I meant to go behind him there. I just misinput. Yeah. Listening to music and playing video games in Spanish, I made so much more progress quicker than when I was trying to learn it by just memorizing vocabulary. Ooh, this is a rough spawn. So similarly, if you want to learn how to make an app, start by making an app you're interested in. If you want to make like a second version of Tinder, but for players that, but for people that are trying to find D&D players to play with them, go for it. Like, it might not be great, but you'll learn a lot doing it. If you want to make a website that hosts all of the music that you've listened to in your life that you really liked, go ahead. Like, go for it. I mean, that one might get copyright struck to oblivion in the modern era, but hey, you'll learn. And if you don't share it, the chances of someone actually finding it are very low. Take that from me, because I know that for sure. Yeah. I don't know that there's much more that I can say about design. Just start. I can't see shit because I'm getting items in my face. Just, start at what you want your characters to do. Jesus, man. Why do you do so much damage? Start at what you want your characters to do, and go from there. Like, build it up from there. Make sure you build your game's levels around it as well, and at that point, you've essentially got the crux of a game. That's all Mario is. I mean, you think about, like, how would you describe Mario to someone? Well, I want a character that jumps, and making the jumps is a little bit difficult. And, they get harder as you go further into the game. Alright, yeah, that is Mario summed up. And it's an all-time favorite. Ow. Dude, he does so much damage. Stagger. I don't think I ult him here. I think I just do a charged heavy. Awesome. Nice. That's rough. I think this counts as a halberd, though. It sure do. How's this run going? Let's check in. I've been on autopilot because I'm clearing the fortress. You guys all know how that is. Raises attack, boosts lightning damage negation. I don't think I take that yet. This run is looking a little bit rough. This build, though, has been very, very fun. The run isn't even that rough. It's just that, like, I really don't have a good weapon here. Oh, I also don't have a lightning weapon. And lightning weapons are... which, that is entirely my fault, which pisses me off. But lightning weapons are very important for this guy, because without it, he gets, something. I kind of forget. You can run over and fight this dude, and he drops an item. Also, the blacksmith in the tree always has a smithing stone 1, to my understanding. This is such a funny way. This is such a fun way to play Guardian, by the way. Like, I would fully recommend this to someone who's looking for something new. Because this is hilarious to me. And, yeah. One thing that's interesting, too, is I taught myself programming. So I feel like, honestly, I'm probably more, I entitled, I guess is the word. I'm probably... Oh, that sucks. What? I'm probably a better... I'm a much better person to talk about, like, programming stuff than I'd say, like, game design stuff. But game design is where my interest is in. So a lot of the stuff that I talk about with game design comes from what other game designers who are successful have said. Like, Hideo Kojima has made a point of how he used to work like 20-hour days. I also think, though, it's important to mention that the idea that you're not worthy of doing something because you're not successful in it yet or proven is a very limiting, self-sabotaging way of thinking that is also completely incorrect. Just because you're not proven in something doesn't mean that you're not allowed to talk about it. It does mean that people are going to doubt you significantly more. And that's just life. Like, you're going to have to overcome people doubting you because until you've got a proven track record, people will just not want to listen. Okay, I need to lock the hell in because I'm down to 1 heal. But, okay, just because you've not proven yourself yet doesn't mean what you want to say about any given topic is completely irrelevant. It just means people are going to say, like, well, who are you to say that? If you actually came to your ideas with... If you actually came to how you feel with clear logic, are you the Nameless King in this run? Alright, well, I always say Dark Souls 3 is my favorite. Let's prove it. I honestly think I can get a second ultimate. That's not fair, bro. I should have held my ult. Dude, fighting him not on the clouds is so nice. Also having the fast sprint away, very nice. Yeah, don't be afraid to give your opinion, just be ready to support it with logic on why you feel that way. I think games that have a tight core mechanic just generally perform much better. And I find that I enjoy them more. If you spend time making a core fun, I'll have something that will make me want to keep playing your game. If you just add a bunch of mechanics in but don't actually make them enjoyable to do or use, well, I'm not really going to like that. Crits restore art. Come on. Give me it. Alright. That sucked. I was at the perfect range where I couldn't avoid it. Ooh, I cannot rely on that attack. Ult again. Just like doing a level 1 run. I should have quick-stepped again. Alright, it's fine. Lock in. I'm doing really well. No, no. No, he caught the quick step. That is the worst possible thing. Crit. Cool. Three. No, I mistimed it. Oh my god. Okay. Now, is this build good? I don't know. I do know that next run, I think I'm going to play Executor. And we are going to go for a win. Because I am tired of losing. Never be afraid to give your opinion, especially if you feel like you've really thought through why you feel the way that you feel. Just also never be afraid to change it if somebody comes at you and says, hey, you're wrong. If you're always trying your best to go by what logically tracks and makes sense to you, you're not wrong for sharing how you feel. Hideo Kojima made Metal Gear essentially just working 20-hour days as an unproven game dev. The person who made Smash also worked completely unhealthy hours and did it to make sure that their idea worked. And prior to it working, they were a nobody. Or maybe not a nobody, but they weren't anyone who would have been taken seriously, especially because game design was in its infancy back then. If you have an idea on why things are good, why things are bad, a take on balance, whatever, by all means, like, share it, verbalize it, whatever, and just remember, there will always be people that no matter what you say, and no matter how logical it is, will fight you on it, and that's okay. And yeah, anyway, like I said, Executor next, we're going to go in it with the mindset that we're going to win. I actually really think I could have beat... If I was in my prime, that Nameless King fight would not have been a loss. But alas, it was a good run. And honestly, a fun build. I might do that again on my own. Just because. But till next time. See ya.